Greetings, brothers and sisters. So this ransomware thing with Russia, just another way that JoJo Magooze simply isn't up to the challenge. Biden under pressure to respond to Russian hackers' claims of responsibility for ransomware attack. Biden said he would know more Sunday about who was responsible, but no statement was forthcoming Sunday or Monday. There he is with Putin. And so, it was after he warned Putin, and I'll get into that because that's kind of the most important piece to this thing. Hackers behind crime spree demand 70 million, say they've locked 1 million devices. Cybersecurity experts say the scale of attacks is unprecedented for criminal hackers.
The biggest ransomware attack possibly ever, turning now to that very big story, shaking the business world. Are evil, the Russian group behind the biggest global ransomware attack.
Are evil, they're Russian, and they are evil, and they're behind it. They want $70 million in Bitcoin.
That we've ever seen now appearing to be demanding $70 million in ransom from affected companies. It is coming after those hackers took down software management company Kaseya, with ransomware spreading across hundreds, if not thousands, of their customers through a disguised software update.
It looked like an update, but it was really ransomware.
Biden directing U.S. intelligence agencies to investigate, but the company CEO says they've got it taken care of.
Wait, look at the picture they got of JoJo Magooze. That's my kind of picture there. Magooze in action. Going full ghoul. Going full Magooze. You've done it again, Magooze.
They've got it taken care of.
We've addressed the issues. We're actually 100% confident that we know how it happened, and we've remediated it.
He's getting it done.
All right, let's talk to Shannon Pettypiece about this, who's from the White House for us this morning. Shannon, great to see you once again. Right, they're pretty confident because he's saying we got this thing in the bag. Right, obviously, the president wanting.
Let's move on to the next one. But what I said before, when this first thing happened, to do with the gas pipelines affecting basically a third of the states in America, and they paid the hackers. This is the new warfare because cyber criminality is run rampant. It's almost impossible for there's no real law enforcement of the internet, right? And the internet's where all the money is and where all the information is. Two things that are, really valuable. And it's where every company has a internet application. They have a, software application to administer their businesses across the internet, and it all can be hacked. Every, electrical grid, everything that we have has some vulnerability to being shut down by hacking and ransomware. And so countries have the ability to attack, but not really the ability to defend from this, right? And police the internet. And so this is the new warfare. And then Biden goes in and meets with Putin and says, hey, buddy, these are the 10 things if you hack, if they're attacked by your hackers, we won't tolerate, which was stupid because these were the things that he pointed out, the vulnerabilities. And now, these things are happening, and Biden has already boxed himself in a corner, and he's got to respond to Russia in this way. These are supposed to be private hacker groups that live in Russia, but he's going to want Russia to find them, and, Russia's not going to do that. And so this is like a potential World War III type of a situation. Ransomware attack on software manager hits 200 companies. This is just from one website. Apex predators. What the Kaseya ransomware attack has experts worried about. The gang behind a supply chain attack used tactics usually reserved for well-resourced nation-state hackers. That could mean a new era of cyber attacks.
Biden is facing pressure to act after Russian hackers claimed credit for a massive ransomware attack, including on American companies. Kelly O'Donnell's at the White House. Kelly, this comes after the president issued that public warning.
That's right, Kate. It was just 3 weeks
ago
that President Biden warned Vladimir Putin in Geneva that Putin must take action against Russian-based cyber hackers.
Just look at how fake these reporters are. Right? They're not human beings. They're just reading, like this is why people don't watch the news anymore. It's like watching robots.
Today, I asked the president whether the U.S. will respond. Mr. President, on the latest ransomware attack, can you tell us if you believe that rises to the level of U.S. retaliation?
It appears to have caused minimal damage to U.S. businesses, but we're still gathering information to the full extent of the attack.
The White House says
So he's not going to do shit, right? Which is, we'll see how this all plays out. But this has happened now a number of times. And, this is the new warfare. Because, they can do irreparable damage to companies and finances and, banks and businesses and, anything that has hackable software can be hacked and, disabled or destroyed or resources stolen or whatever it might be. Hacking has a glorious future, right? And it's either private hackers or government paid hackers or private hackers that are really government paid hacking groups. And they can administer warfare and then distance themselves and saying, well, that wasn't us. That was some private group that's saying they're in our country, but we can't find them or whatever it is, right? And so this is going to cause huge problems. I mean, think about if that pipeline didn't, whatever the name of that pipeline, the company that owned that pipeline, if they didn't pay those hackers to get their access to their pipelines back, that could have caused riots and just a complete breakdown, a lack of resources, a lack of, trucks not being able to deliver things, food and, all these shortages. I mean, it could have been a catastrophe. And so they had to pay them, right? Because, we can't go without gas in 1/4 of the country for a week or two. It was already causing a crisis. And so, whether the government's doing this themselves just to, in some way to get people ready for this kind of thing, or who knows what's really going on here. But hacking is, a cheap way to administer catastrophic effects on another country or corporation or whatever it is. And this idea of apex predator, I thought governments were in the hacking world. There's a gang and not a government that's the apex predator. Trump to sue Facebook, Twitter CEOs over being banned from their platforms. Trump's political PAC announced he will hold a press conference on Wednesday morning.
Monica, Facebook today saying it's extending its suspension of former President Trump's accounts for 2 years. What are we hearing from Trump on this one?
Well, perhaps completely unsurprisingly, the president issuing a statement through email because he actually this week got rid of his blog where it was basically just these statements that would be posted on a website, saying that he is extremely upset by this, saying, quote, they shouldn't be allowed to get away with this censoring and silencing, and ultimately predicting we will win. Of course, it comes during a week where the president...
He says we will win a lot and then doesn't deliver, right? So this is the press conference Trump gave earlier. President Trump holds press conference, and it's on Facebook, ironically, in a place called Bedminster, New Jersey, and it looks just very presidential. They got all the flags, they got the pillars, like he's coming out of the sort of White House, just not as good. He has some lawyers, I think, speaking for him in the beginning.
For the sake of future Independence Days, for the sake of future American generations, we must fight for the people's rule. That's what Donald Trump is here to do, and that's what he's always done. Please help me welcome President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Brooke. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. I just want to say that I stand before you this morning to announce a very important and very beautiful, I think, development for our freedom and our freedom of speech.
A lawsuit. It's very exciting.
This morning to announce a very important and very beautiful, I think, development for our freedom and our freedom of speech. And that goes to all Americans. Today, in conjunction with the America First Policy Institute, I'm filing as the lead class representative a major class action lawsuit against the big tech giants, including Facebook, Google, and Twitter.
Facebook, Google, and Twitter, oh my.
As well as their CEOs, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, and Jack Dorsey. Three real nice.
Jack Dorsey.
Nice guys.
Woo, nice guys, woo.
We're asking the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida to order an immediate halt to social media companies' illegal, shameful censorship of the American people, and that's exactly what they are doing.
Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he has no chance of winning. So I've explained this before because this is what I do for a living, and I have realized my own situation, with YouTubes and social media and the alternatives and the way that they have worked this, because, it's kind of masterful the way they did it. There's a lot of incompetence in the group I call the controllers. Just a lot of, boobery. They just do stupid stuff. Magooery. It's a lot of magoo-ness. But the way they've worked this whole social media thing, and people who in the truther movement and right-wing and left-wing sort of extremist people, was they opened up the internet and they were able to collect a database of potential troublemakers, people that would cause problems down the road. Who knows what they were doing? Maybe they wanted to identify all the sheeple so they could get rid of them. We don't know. There's a lot of things that are yet to be, we're yet to find out. But what they've been able to do is collect this database and find out what people are believing. It could be aliens who just want to learn more about human beings. And so they opened it up and let everyone express themselves freely, up into the point where they were losing control because people were, well, wow, there's much more interesting points of view in social media than there are in the mainstream media. And everybody thought, wow, we can say whatever we want on social media. We're able to have our own points of view. There's no reason for other platforms. There's no reason for alternative platforms. And then they brought in Trump and they brought in the QBs and all the things that were happening. January 6th happened, but they were doing this beforehand. And they started to platform people. And then all of a sudden people started to realize, hey, there's nothing in terms of a right wing or a truther, Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or any of these things, Twitter. There isn't any of the alternatively run, because now we find out that all liberals and people who are friendly with the sort of left-wing agenda and the so-called surveillance state. And so now it's like, wait, we are kind of, screwed over, right? And I said this, that Trump should have realized this when they started censoring him, because he was so dependent on Twitter, and they were, starting to censor him years ago. And he should have seen the writing on the wall. He had the money and the ability to create a right-wing version of Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all these other platforms. And then he would have had a place now to express himself freely. But just like everybody else, he got hooked in to the mainstream, the controlled, privatized, and that's the important part. These are private companies that have a right to censor their membership. And certainly there are things on there. There are, people posting things that you would want censored, like pedo stuff, people promoting illegal activity or violence or hate, because that's happening. all these things need to be censored. These companies have to have the right to censor their, content. And so now everybody in the so-called truth community, and certainly on the right wing, and Trump and all his people, are all screwed over because they have no place to go. You have these alternative platforms that you can go and have a fringe level audience and get no views, not be able to make money or something like this. You can create your own platform and take your viewers. Your viewers are just going to dwindle over years because there's no way for them to find out about you. I've worked this thing out myself. And so you either knuckle under to the ever-changing community guidelines, or you go into the internet abyss, right? The internet like banishment, and you go on some, you go into the land of the obscure internet, platforms, and it is whatever it is. And Trump's just realizing this. He's not going to win this lawsuit. I mean, never know. But I don't think there's any legal basis for it. These are private companies that the First Amendment rights don't apply. Maybe the Supreme Court, because of, some, I don't know, they want to throw Trump a bone after screwing him over. I don't know what it is. But I would be shocked to see if Trump's lawsuit will go anywhere. And in the meantime, he should have established his own platform. He has some blog that he's taken down because he's realizing all the things I said that he should have done 2 years ago. As soon as they started to censor and to put disclaimers under his tweets as president, he knew he should have known he was screwed, and he had to have his own platform. And then he could have brought all his people over, and then all the right-wingers could have went there, and it would have hurt all these other platforms. But, you need money. The banks aren't going to, everybody's on the same page here. And so they're not going to create other platforms that are going to be able to rival, be on the same level as these controlled platforms. And the other piece here is when they brought Trump and they shaped the narrative around Trump, like who people were perceiving him to be on the right and the left. What they do is, like you see a reality TV show, and they have lots of footage. They collect all this, so-called reality TV footage, and they feed lines and narratives to the various people on the show, and they choose different roles. Like every reality TV show is going to have a villain, a manipulative person that everyone's going to root against. Like take The Bachelor, for example. There'll be some, woman there who's completely manipulative, and all the other women there hate her, and people watching at home hate her and don't like her. But the guy is, she's one of the top ones that he might pick, right? It's all, contrived. And everyone's watching is like, don't pick Nancy. Nancy's a bitch, right? Nancy's manipulative, right? And then, Nancy moves along and everyone's freaked out, and everyone's talking about on the internet who likes the show or whatever it is. And then he doesn't give Nancy a rose, and then people are like, oh, I'm not going to watch anymore. Because the villain is always the person that makes it interesting and brings energy to the show. You see this on all these reality TV shows. And so they give each person a narrative. Lots of people are just extras and no one cares about them. But they have a hero and they have a villain and they have all these different, levels of, narratives that they give people. And they shape it. And they can make anybody look good or bad or whatever based on all the footage they have and the way they edit the narratives of the reality TV show. They've gotten good at it. And, now they've done it with politics because they edit the footage, right? When CNN shows you JoJo Magooze, it's going to be things that look inspiring and make the Democratic people watching the show be into JoJo. But when Fox or, you see it on whatever, they give lots of information and narratives and clips, video clips that'll drive right-wing people, Trump supporters, nuts. Like, look at this guy. He's just a complete joke, right? People in the truth community. They did the same thing with Trump. Like, Trump just triggered everybody on the left based in the narrative, the way they were shaping the narrative around Trump. And he was, the hero of the right. And they're able to edit these things and frame these narratives so people are, are completely polarized by these candidates because it's like reality TV. They've learned to work people, and they have more information now from years of data gathering on social media and Amazon, and they know how people think and what will appeal to them. It's like aliens who are trying to figure out the psyche of the human beings. And now it's just all about division. And so you'll see stories, I cover stories all the time, that is, the story will trigger one group and fire up the other group, to back the narrative. You see and they're completely divisive, and, both sides can't even fathom the other side's point of view. And that's, a bad sign, because the division and the schism in America, that's why I talked about the year of the schism, is so deep. And one side or the other is always going to be like, wow, this is so messed up. I can't believe this just happened. That's what people said when Trump got elected on the left, and what Trumpers and right-wing people and truthers said when JoJo Magooze got elected. They just really want to trigger you to lose faith in the system, but in a way that's, not really about the system. It's about, the other group and, being triggered by the Democrats. And so they frame it in a way so you don't look at the whole system, but you're losing faith, and you have to take matters into your own hands. And this is why everyone's so on edge right now, because they really know how to get at people and trigger them and, make them feel butthurt and things. And so, this is why I talk about the idea of, true knowledge, which is divine knowledge and your true purpose here, and realizing that things aren't fair in the way people think about fairness. Like there's no cause and effect. Like where's the cause to the way things are going now? Well, the cause is there, but you just don't realize it because you thought America was something other than what it really is. And so this is where we are in 2021, where, people have to connect to God and go deeper into their internalized experience, because the materialistic world is just crazy, and it's crazy making. You're being gaslit on every level, and you're being triggered, and it's trying to pull out emotions and, get people to be desperate and make, bad decisions and do desperate acts and things. And, eventually what it's going to be is giving you a new deal that's going to suck. And then, the young people will adapt and the old people will just, give up. And when everything starts going down, but you can see this as really an opportunity that the system is now, it isn't as important to you as it once was. In fact, it can lose all importance to you, and you can depend completely on God, where you're not worried about the system. You're not worried about their fake leadership or the people I call the controllers. Everything that you receive is coming from God, and there's a reason for it and a purpose to it. And you just got to work on gratitude and developing your heart as an instrument, the heartfulness meditation, to interpret what God and your soul want you to do and staying on your spiritual path. And things will be, better, because you're not looking at this system as, you're not dependent on the system and the controllers. You're dependent on God and, and your internal process and your soul. And you're shifting away from this idea that these people who I call the controllers have control over you and the system, because really they don't. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. The government's an illusion. The power structure is an illusion. And it's just that everyone buys into it. But when you change your perception and you start to see that it's, there's a divine plan and there's divine power here at the root of all life and, social structure and everything, beyond what I call the controllers. And now you're, dependent on God, and you're working for God, and you change your master, right? Instead of being a slave to the system, you're a slave to God. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.